it clean. Kenya film me create the dream. Light up the screen like a laser beam. Jah bless me journey, me never look back. Moving forward, always on track. From the first cut to the final stack. Me passion strong, me heart never lack. Feel my way me live, feel my way me breathe. 20 years strong, me continue to lead. Kenya on the map, me a plant the seed. Alba was in him where the world a feed. Me my way me live, feel my way me breathe. 20 years strong, me continue to lead. Kenya on the map, me a plant the seed. Alba was in him where the world a feed. Me tell them stories, me bring them alive. From the village road to the city's vibe. Every shot a treasure, me vision thrive. As long as me there, me dream survive.
They let me go and see them and them know me face. 20 years in a film, me can't be replaced to hear. Can I me home, me culture and race. Can I write me destiny chase. From 00 to 10, the story unfold. Me tell the tale in a father road. Oh yeah, film real still secrets them hold. Me craft me perfect, watch your magic explode. I'll go and see me boy, me star in the sky. 20 years strong, me never survive. Oh yeah, can you feel seen? Me make it so fly. Action, me cry till the day me die. Every shot me take, every frame me capture. Me heart in the lens, my soul in the venture. We are documentaries, fictions, them all me structure. 20 years me give, every scene a treasure. In a Nairobi street, me hunt for the goal. Me vision so bright, me story unfold. We are the struggle me face, me never get cold. Was like camera action, me roll. Albo a cinema, the star in the sky. 20 years strong, me never survive. Oh yeah, Kenya feel seen, we make it so fly. Action, me cry till the day me die.
In 20 years my day up on the film scene. Kenya move, my passion, my dream. Yeah, me ride me on a nation bright. Me tell them stories about life and the fight. We start from scratch with just one lens. Hustling hard from make some ends. From the slums to the hills, me craft my art. Every frame I tell a piece of my heart. My journey long, walk my heart strong. Every scene a memory where me belong. Lighting up the screen with my history. Me tell them all about my filmmaking journey. No follow script, me write my own. Albo a cinema, my empire grow. From the dusty roads to the urban glow. My legacy built, my talent show. We film the struggles, we film the love. We capture the beauty from sky above. 20 years and we still going strong. Filmmaker at art, my personal love. My journey long, walk my heart strong. Every scene a memory where me belong. Lighting up the screen with my history. Me tell them all about my filmmaking journey.
Start the journey on a youth to see. Year 2000 need the panda big screen. Pushing the script them from Nairobi start. Every frame a passion, every take a art. 2003 me win them one cheer. Festival light shine bright like me career. Action scene vibrant like the Maasai's pride. Kenya film rise up, make we wave the tide. Alba was in him, me name on the roll. 20 years a story, me carve out me soul. Africa we rise, make the world them see. Kenya film industry, blazing wild and free.
Yeah, me name, Alba was in him. 20 years me on the game. Kenya film me make it flame. Every time them call me name. Camera lights believe in that. Making movies I hit the top. From the start me never stop. Kenya brought me bring it hot. Dance with me feel me life. 20 years me feel so right. From the night to the daylight. Me a star, me a spotlight. The stories me tell, make them believe. Every scene me achieve. Action, drama, so me weave. Me passion, me live and breathe. Kenya vibe me represent. Every film a testament. Believe and mark me imprint. To the top me a sent. Dance with me feel me life. 20 years, me feel so right. From miaka 20 na filma najua, Kenya industry kazi yangu kubwa. Ina channel, jina albo wa cinema, movie reviews, kila siku napenda. Katika filamu, nimeona mengi, hadithi nzuri, kutoka kwenye nchi. Kamera na mwanga, yote naweza, inapendwa na wengi, kazi yangu sha albo wa cinema. Tukiwasha YouTube channel, halali mabasha, miaka 20, kila moja najua. Filmmaker original, siwezi kusimama. Miaka 20, jua linapochomoza, kamera mkononi kama mchawi na tabiri. Ilianza na ndoto, sasa kitabu na suka albo wa sinema, safari ya mkufunzi wa sinema. Picha kwa picha, shoti moja ikafuatia, kwa viwanja vya Nairobi hadi mpaka ni Mombasa. Ronga familia na even Saudi, nimeshuhudia filamu ni maisha, nashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu Baba. Instagram na Twitter albo wasima, nacheza movie reviews na kueneza burudani, si shangaza wale wafuasi wakifuatilia kwa radhi. Pamoja tumebobea kwenye ulimwengu na sauti. Zamani tulianza bila digitali mpaka analogi, Katika giza nilianza safari, ndoto kubwa, mwangaza wa mahari. Vituko vya Nairobi, kamera mikononi, miaka 20, jasho likitiririka. Uimbaji wa mitaani kwa screens kubwa, hadithi zisizosikika zikavuma, picha kwa picha, sinema zilivyo bora. Albo wa sinema kwenye Insta sina mpinzani. Mdogo chelewesha, lakini moyo wangu hawezi zimika. Mabonde na milima, sinema za Kenya nikapigania. Mwangaza wa jua kwetu ikawata, usiku wa manane kashika ratili. Mafanikio yananikimbiza, kila kona ninakufaulu. Albo wa sinema, twende kazi kwenye Insta na Twitter.
Enter Jakef.
My lord. So now, karibu to Albosi. This is, I think this is number 5, the live stream. Now okay, Pole. Now I have been following this lady. Where is that? Is this one? Candace Owens. Candace Owens. Now she's been doing a lot of investigative journalism in this, various topic. Should I call it topics? Let's say a lot of issues. So there is this Harvey Weinstein issue that, some of you remember, it struck Hollywood during the Me Too era heavily, and he's let's say is he the only one, or at least the major? How do we say? It's so hot here today. The major big fish that was found in the middle of that fiasco. Anyway, she's been a bit anti that Me Too movement, and it's because she, in her view, there was a lot of carte blanche being undertaken, and it was being used by malicious women to go after men for various reasons, and it did actually turn out that there were a lot of false allegations. So it seems, at least from my initial impressions of this, that's where our argument comes across, and we are going to listen. It's 54 minutes long. So we're not going to, of course, to listen to everything. It's just to, to get the gist of it. Because actually the reason why I had to react to this specifically is because of this. This is last year. 25th April 2024. So Harvey Weinstein 2020. They don't like people using this word. Grape. I've heard people say that. Grape conviction overturned by New York Appeals Court. So the 72-year-old former film producer has been serving a 23-year sentence. Hiyo ni death sentence. Ukiongeza 23 hapa 95. Unaweza tokea hapo kwenda 1 year ile ya pesa. Okay, anyway. Serving a 23-year sentence in New York prison after being accused of actually assaulting an ex-production assistant in 2006 and graping a former aspiring actress. Hey. Sorry, the studio is extra hot today. And I've just taken some coffee, so my taulo is there. So this is what, when I saw this come up, so I thought we are going to listen to what Candace Owens has to say. Let me just make sure that my stream is okay. I'm just, I'm alone here trying to monitor everything. Let's see. Okay. Let's check that one. Yes, that one is there. Let's check this one. Perfect. Let me see. Okay, kabisa. I'm just checking my things. So let's let me see that one. Sometimes, because why is this thing make like that? Sometimes when you're doing things. Okay, kabisa. Haya, nimeona hapo iko sawa kabisa. Counter check. So let's continue and listen to what Candace has unearthed. So apparently she talked to him from as he's in jail. So let's see what she has to say. This is the first episode. I don't know how many episodes.
So special to me, mainly series. All right, guys, happy Monday. Sorry we are running a few minutes late. There are so many pieces when you're doing these series that you just want to make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. So sometimes we take a couple of extra minutes to get everything going. But as always, I promise you it will be well worth the wait. And I am so excited to bring forth this series. I've already explained to you why it's so special to me, mainly because the Me Too movement, I believe, has become an evil manifestation. And I have 3 sons. So let's jump right into it. Welcome to Episode 1 of Harvey Speaks.
Yeah, so she had the thing. Let me just jump. So she went and talked to Harvey. They talked on the phone, or she went to there. I don't know. So that's where my interest peaked. So we had to see whether, sometimes, because she's been doing this series about the French first lady. Apparently, he is a gentleman. It's very interesting. At least I have no reason to doubt, because the evidence points me to that she's right. So she's been right on many things. So it's sometimes it's looking at averagely how accurate is somebody's information, how well do they take their credibility, how much do they appreciate their credibility, because a lot of people, they just do things just for the purpose of trending or whatnot, or other reasons, but other than finding out really objectively what's going on. And she's doing pretty well there.
Where should we begin? I'm thinking that we should begin with the theater kid archetype, okay? Because if there's one thing that I've realized throughout my career in politics and in the media, it's that there is this theater kid archetype that exists. It's real. People who dedicate a large portion of their lives to the pursuit of the camera.
Sorry, I have not renewed my premium. Okay.
Wanting to make it in Hollywood, wanting to make it as an actor or an actress. Maybe you start as a drama kid. I'm not sure, I'm not certain, and I will take your opinions on this, that thirst ever dies within them. And of course, I'm generalizing here, but I find that when I come across these people, now that we're older, they seem to forever be on a quest in the back of their minds for their big break. Like it could still happen, even if they're in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s.
Now, that is absolutely true. And that's not just specifically to Hollywood, it's everywhere else. But more so there because of just, if you hit, like you become almost like a small god, like the amount of attention you get, the opportunities, the money, everything changes totally. But, you know, as if you're not able to evolve or your value is not maintained for one reason or the other, or Didi goes to jail, or Weinstein for that matter. So there are many things that happen. And so as it is so, like, I'm thinking about it, like, if everywhere you go, people are just like, oh wow. I think it gets to you. And I don't think you ever really get over it because of I think for me, there are a number of opportunities you get just being that person or being that celeb or whatever. And like these days, because the celebrity market has kind of been liberalized, if you know what I mean. Like so many people, because of online, are able to be celebrities. But they can tell you. Some of these guys, they can tell you. So because a lot of these guys, they were nobodies before they are who they are right now, that there was no precedence. They just came, did skits and whatever it is, did podcasts or whatever, and then they just became these humongous celebrities with millions and millions of impressions and followers and subscribers and all those things. So I think because of what you get from being a celebrity, it really can't. And then you see the whole esteem thing. It really becomes, because imagine now the way people are worshiping you, then it disappears. Like even if it's not overnight, but gradually it just disappears. Till one time people don't even pay attention to you, you know, as you are. Some people appreciate that, especially if you've made a lot of money and just want to chill. But most of the time it's traumatic, very traumatic to these people. So let's go on.
And so the question then becomes, what happens to these individuals when it never arrives? Okay, I want you to think about that. What happens if there's a woman who spends a decade or even more of her life trying to make it in Hollywood, only to realize that she's failed? Maybe she was even that girl who, before she left her hometown, quietly mocked in the back of her mind the unambitious other women, right? The girls from her hometown who married off at the age of 20 and then they immediately started having families. Maybe in her youth, she mocked them because, you know, she knew that she had something special. She was going to make it. She was leaving her hometown. And I think about that because, interestingly enough, in my first book, I wrote an entire chapter about a friend that I used to have who was exactly that sort of an individual. And I spoke about her because she was an aspiring actress in Brooklyn, and we met interning and just kind of chose different paths in our life. I was kind of just wanting to get myself out of student loan debt, willing to take any and every job. And she was just sort of this free spirit. She described herself as a free spirit, and she came from another country, and it was all about attending the right parties, meeting the right directors. She was just so much cooler than me, you know? She was so much cooler than me and more confident than me, and she was gorgeous. She was prettier than me. And for a while, it seemed to be working for her. She, you know, men fell at her feet. She got these small acting gigs that she wanted. And then as we grew older, and obviously in Hollywood, older is even when you're young, she stopped getting those small roles. And I sensed in her a bitterness at the different decisions that I had made in my life. And unfortunately, our friendship ended. But I'll never forget that one of our last conversations that we had was actually about the Me Too movement, and she was so invested in it. She was like,
so she's getting into it. So I'm just gonna let her cook it, you know, just marinate it until we get to the point. I think there's a point to all this. When she's doing content like this, it's very researched, and it's progressively the stories are being told. It's well scripted and whatnot. So you kind of have to let her cook. I don't know how much we listen to it. Just really kind of depends. But yeah, let's see, because there's some other things I want to talk about a bit later. But this is the core of it.
You don't understand, like this has to happen. And I had wondered, even though I was listening to her, whether or not her investment in the Me Too movement was actually her trying to reconcile decisions that she had made in her past, decisions that she had made with producers and people that she thought that, well, if she slept with, they might lead to her getting her big break. Anyways, that's all somewhat anecdotal. It's real, but anecdotal. And the reason that we're here today is because we're speaking about Harvey Weinstein. Because we all remember nothing and everything about this case. It is very strange. There was so much information that we couldn't dilute it at that time. We for sure remember that it began with an explosion of journalists, and then way too many women to count that were making allegations. Here is just a small snippet.
The similarities between these stories were uncanny. A lot of use of showers, a lot of exposing himself, and as I said, in 3 of these cases, allegations of rape.
And then he comes back out and he's fully naked.
And he just kept asking me to watch him masturbate.
On everything, I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable.
You see, this audio, I think, is what, to me, it was so cringy. You know, like a hungry. Just a head, a tip, please, just a tip. This is exactly how it sounded. And you see, for me, I don't really get it, because he could literally have, even the way he looks, he's not a good-looking guy, but who cares? We know the money talks. And he was so powerful. Oh, my goodness. He could make you like that. It could make you like that. So, we know it is what it is, But, hey, man, so that's why it's so pathetic. Is that begging? Just a tip. Oh, my God. Harvey, boy, Harvey, such simpish behavior.
Please come in now. 5 minutes. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
This sort of.
So, you see, that's that thing of... I don't understand how people say that, like, especially when it comes to these sexual innuendos and relations. Like, basically, when it's being carried out under duress, like, how does that work? Maybe there's some things that beasts do, That's it's like, how do you even enjoy that? Because I think personally, because that's been my experience, it's really, it becomes this this really weird thing that you can really do without, like for what it's worth, it's not really something so important, like you have to put everything on the line with, but that biological imperative. But at that age, because even me, I notice very, very distinctively how I behaved sexually in my 20s and 30s, like early 30s, and now, I could just what? It's not that serious. It's never that serious. And me specifically, I'd made I'd made, principally, I decided there's no way that I'm going to have relations within the industry. Like if people you're working with, actresses, crew and whatnot, I find there are just too many things that can go wrong, and you can ruin so many things, and I've seen it happen. So it's just not worth it. But here we are. Let's say Harvey was a weirdo. So, but what she's showing you now, it's the media, how the story starts being cooked and being framed to the public, so that because it's the public's reaction that really fuels these stories.
Behavior is normalized and accepted for decades in this industry.
Decades, she said. And it was, of course, then this very big watershed moment that was going to bring down Harvey Weinstein. Goodness, you guys, he was arguably the most powerful man in Hollywood.
Yes.
And now we had upwards of 100 women who were claiming that they had been sexually abused, harassed, or even raped, which is why he's in prison today. But I got to tell you something right away. That list, that long list of women who found the cameras and spoke out and said that things happened, and you don't really remember whether or not he denied it, that list significantly dwindled by the time we got into the courtroom. And then even when we were in the courtroom, it dwindled even more. And I'll tell you why. This is one of the very many compelling aspects of this case. How they were able to sort through the women who were just outright lying, meaning women who had definitively never even slept with Harvey Weinstein, some women who he alleges he never even met, from the women who had, at the very least, been intimate with him, okay? And I'll tell you why, because, of course, when people realize that someone's going down, if were a struggling person who wanted to make a quick buck and you knew that this empire was going to crash, you might be willing to come in for a quick payday. And what better way to do that? You could just cry and then describe something terrible that happened. Your Honor, he made me fondle his testicles, you know, tears streaming.
You know, we've had some pretty like high profile cases like this where it's just found out like somebody, because personally it's not, I'm not trying to say that I'm this special kind of person, but normally like some of these stories I just have a sense for it, you know, because there's a pattern to them. And even the method that they go about it, because I always say, because like say in America, for example, it is right now, it's very, very difficult for you to like abuse a woman and nothing happens to you, just goes scot-free, unless she doesn't do anything about it. If she just goes like immediately she goes like to be checked, then case, you're going down. You're absolutely going down. So normally when people bring things to social media and there's no like case put forward or whatnot, and it's old, like it's 20, 30 years, whatever, 10 years, for me that's one of those hallmarks of that. Not to say that there can be an odd one here and there where somebody was actually like, the circumstances conspired that you're not able to do all these things, but normally because of just how much it's usually powerful people, how much money is there to be made. Normally, like it's usually so ridiculous. So somebody is so vengeful, like I think he like to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. There's also malice there because like she was taking a shit like in the bed. Okay. Oh, that was a strange one. And I also did a video, maybe you can find it here, where one of our producers was being accused on TikTok with these improprieties. Personally, I was finding it very hard to believe a young lady because of just a number of things that I explained on that video. Maybe, yeah, you can check on the channel there. It should be 2-3 weeks or something like that. So, yeah. So there's things like this that personally I have. That's why I like detail. That's why it's important that evidence is there, because we can't run on people's tears and emotions. People are manipulative as hell out here, man.
Screaming down your face. And these sorts of moments happened, and Harvey's lawyers would give each other a look, a knowing smirk, a high five, realizing that, yeah, no one's going to believe this woman. And I'll tell you why. The answer to that is because Harvey Weinstein didn't have any testicles. He doesn't have any testicles. I told you guys, this is a strange tale with many twists and turns, and this is just one of them.
Let's go.
But what became a crucial element of the Harvey Weinstein case, something that Harvey probably had considered a curse when it happened to him back in 1999, wound up being something of a blessing to his very many court proceedings. I want you to check out this headline, okay? It reads, Harvey Weinstein's abnormal testicles are key focus of final arguments in trial. I am not kidding. This is real. And
But guys, a lot of these details of this case, guys don't know. They kind of know the media narrative because that's already preset. Because it's not about arguing here. They are one of the main conduits of trying to push these stories. Accusing people and judging them in the public before the chance. So they kind of, they muddy the waters to make sure that their way is heard. And you see, a lot of people want disclaimers. Oh, have you this? We'll get to that. But you see, we have to go slowly, not jumping emotional everywhere, because a lot of people, they don't want to look through the minutia or the details. The details. It is important. We have to look at the details because There's liars and scumbags all over the world, everywhere, trying to get a free buck, trying to destroy reputations. Although I don't think Harvey Weinstein needed help to do that, because I think that casting couch thing has been in Hollywood. You see, the weird thing about that is that when they set up a culture like that, and then people participate willingly, see, that's usually for me what I hate the most. Like you're saying, oh, I was desperate, I wanted this acting job, or what, so I so I gave him some pussy. I mean, you can't cry later, because you already perjured your character. You know, you've perjured your character. So that's where for me I stand. You know, I just like to drop this in. That's where for personally I stand. But also there's this aspect where you don't want to, you're talented enough, and you're chasing, and you're being, you know, you're doing everything that's required except getting on your knees. I think that's one of the most unfair, diabolical things that go around. It doesn't matter whether it's just in the film industry or in music or entertainment, like just normal office. Like you find some chick there has just been there for years. She can't get any she can't get any promotion because she's refused to bend for the boss or the manager or what. That is a real thing, and it's not. You see, the truth is the truth, and that one usually it pisses me off, because what it tends to do eventually, other than just the unfairness of it all, is that it dilutes the talent pool. Now imagine the number of actors, I've said this before, the number of actors, musicians, like for example, musicians who didn't want to give Diddy, who didn't want to be smeared in baby oil by Diddy. You know, it's people like that, people who didn't want to fuck Weinstein. Imagine that those, I think, the levels, because I've also noticed that even those ones who got a chance and they just, at some point, they realize they're being asked to do too much, you realize they're being shunned. They're shunned unless they go and just reinvent themselves and do their thing, aka like through the internet. Because really, if the internet was not there, because that time really, for a long period where Harvey was powerful, the internet, they are the ones who control what people see, the narratives. So there is that. Now you're like, hey, but if you took the money,
I'll tell you, the story goes that back in 1999, Harvey Weinstein was diagnosed with something known as Fournier's gangrene. Okay, it is extremely rare, but a life-threatening infection that impacts the genitals with a rapid tissue destruction. Essentially, what we're talking about is necrosis, right? Necrosis. The tissues are dying, and I can show you this excerpt from a Variety article. It says, during the trial, prosecutors revealed to the jury that Weinstein underwent surgery in 1999 for Fournier's gangrene, which required doctors to remove some of...
Okay, guys, I'm sorry. It seems like I hadn't switched to... I was just talking like in the... Oh, my God.
His scrotum. That surgery caused pretty noticeable scarring because of an infection. His testicles were actually taken from his scrotum and put into his inner thighs. So his testicles were removed and put into his inner thighs in 1999. I know. You're thinking, Candace, are you making this up? How could this be? Yes, that happened.
Okay, I get it.
So the list of credible allegations had significantly dwindled, okay? And like I told you,
it's called struggle streaming. I'm still like working out the chinks. So the mistake I'd made is that I've put some shortcuts over here. So, but the shortcut also does something, so I have to change that. Yeah. So when I was touching it, kumbe ilikuwa na switch. I hope it. Anyway.
Told you really this came down in New York to 2 women. As we told you, Harvey Weinstein was sentenced in 2020 to 23 years total in New York, but 20 of those years for criminal sexual assault in the first degree stemmed from accusations that were made from a production assistant who worked on Project Runway. Her name is Miriam, otherwise known as Mimi Haley.
I remember her.
So 20 years, fellas. 20 years, ladies listening. You got sons, we've got husbands, we've got brothers. It's got to be horrific, right? If we're throwing the book and we're saying basically die in prison, because that's what that means. You should die in prison, Harvey Weinstein. What she lived through must have been terrible.
Be 95.
I'll tell you right off the bat that Mimi Haley was born in Helsinki in 1977, and she grew up in Sweden. So she was not an American citizen. That little tidbit will become somewhat relevant in a little bit. And the way that she was introduced to the public was through a lot of tears. It was a press conference in 2017. She announced her allegations against Harvey Weinstein next to none other than Gloria Allred. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's hard to listen to her recapping what Harvey put her through. So let's take a listen to Mimi.
It was not long, though, before he was all over me making sexual advances. I told him no, 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 but he insisted.
There's this weird thing where people just read it. I told him no, no. So she wrote there, no, no, no. I told him no, no, no. But he insisted. Okay. Okay, madam. Okay.
And then I said, I'm on my period. There is no way this is going to happen. Please stop. He wouldn't take no for an answer and backed me into a room which was not lit, but looked like a kid's bedroom with kids' drawings on the walls. He held me down on the bed. I tried to get away, or tried to get him off of me, and kept asking him to stop, but it was impossible. He was extremely persistent and physically overpowering.
So you heard her here. She said, no, no, no. He was overpowering. This is how this happened to her. And by the way, Gloria Allred, I gotta give it to that woman. She has really perfected the craft of ambulance chasing, right? Using press conferences to persuade the masses with a lot of sobbing, right? And it doesn't really matter at that point whether or not what she says in the press conference is going to...
I really hate the emotional manipulation that is involved in such things. The tears. the tears. See, when you live long enough, you realize what every tear means. You know exactly why it's being shed. You know. So personally, I don't care much for tears. You can throw her out of tears, I feel nothing, because people are manipulative, and you see, it's the general corruption of even of Weinstein himself. It lends to also other people trying to do these things, things to you the same way. You know, like, and then you see the entire machinery gets poisoned because this old man can't control his impulses, and this other person doesn't want to walk the straight and narrow to earn things legitimately. They want a shortcut, so let me go give Harvey a hand job. And I mean, what are we doing here?
Going to be the same thing that she says in the courtroom, because people are paying attention to the press conference and probably not going to follow this into the courtroom. And I got to tell you that as detailed as that press conference seems, Mimi does in fact leave out some important details, and she also edits some details when she gets on the stand, which we will get to. But the important thing to know is that Harvey was indicted by a grand jury in 2018, and Mimi's testimony was therefore taken sometime before then. But by the time that she hit the stand, she, in 2020, had edited that testimony a little bit. Even from the grand jury indictment to the stand, there were some things that had changed. She had included some epithets, which we'll get into. So first, we should just get into how she and Harvey met. This is all according to Mimi. This is her story. She first met Harvey Weinstein back in 2004. And then she approached him 2 years later in 2006 at the Cannes Film Festival because she was looking for...
Where was I in 2006? Oh, nilikuwa nalewa Roysambu. Was it in 2006? Yeah, I was just hanging loose in Roysambu. I was a very errand college boy who was wasting
for work in the
time
industry
and
after
money.
her mentor, quote unquote mentor, famed London producer Michael White, had suffered a stroke and lost his business. So that's her. You can see her young, looking young and beautiful, and there she is with Michael White, a producer in London who she said became her mentor. Now, it's worth mentioning that by mentor, she means that after she met him once and they exchanged numbers, she visited him and decided to stay with him during that visit in London.
To give him regular hand jobs.
And you can see she looks young. He looks quite old. Yeah, she was in her 20s. He was in her 60s. She told this, by the way, to Vanity Fair, that he then became a father figure to her and that they enjoyed a quote unquote unconventional platonic relationship. Okay, that's how she spent her 20s beside that guy, Michael. Brushing shoulders because he was a big producer with Kate Moss, the Rolling Stones, Princess Diana at her father figure's house. And then she went on to become his personal assistant. Like I said, he then had a stroke, okay? Her father figure, boss, man, had a stroke. And so with Michael White no longer able to provide that kind of support, she decided to perhaps look for another father figure. I'm not sure how to contextualize that, but she approached...
So she's kind of speculating of, extrapolating from the information that she's spent. She's this random person who just kind of moved in with this producer, this girl she's shown, who got a stroke, and she lived with him till, so they're saying she had this unconventional whatever. I'm sorry. I see, tunajua, we all know what's going on. Why now everybody wants to pretend? They can be platonic. They can be platonic. He's rich and he has money and he's famous and he can do movies. You see, the thing is this, personally, I'm not into that. People can do what they want as long as it's adults. But more or less, like for example, I'm 46 now. If you see me with like a 25-year-old, 22, you know what the deal. There's not, wow, this much love. No, it's resources first versus the other thing. So I'm just, this commentary is meant to help people to understand that this is exactly what we know it is, but when it comes to being expedient to attack somebody, we all kind of pretend like, no, it's not like that. They can be really friends. No.
Harvey Weinstein at the Cannes Film Festival in 2006. Now, I want to be clear that in 2006, Mimi would have been just about to turn 30 years old. Oh. Okay? In other words, she was not a Hollywood spring chicken. I think that's really important. You've seen throughout this podcast, I've always tried to stress what a woman's age is because it's important to differentiate between someone who's, 17 years old, someone who's 15 years old, someone who is 30 years old, a fully formed adult woman, because it changes the context, or it makes you, I guess, think about how helpless and unsure and uncertain they were. And Mimi was about to turn 30. That's where the story begins with Harvey Weinstein. She was not in her early 20s anymore.
So Harvey Pia is Harvey. You're in jail because of a 30-year-old Mr. Millionaire. Harvey.
So her story goes that Harvey invited her after she approached him to meet him at his company's hotel in Cannes, the Majestic Hotel. Mm-hmm. And right away, it was a horrible experience, okay? She was humiliated because she got to his hotel room and they have a little bit of conversation. And then he does this really crazy thing. He asks her for a massage. And she's confused because she's thinking she's coming up here to talk about potentially getting a job, talking about...
So if a man, if Albo is to invite you to a hotel room in town somewhere, Sunset in Kisumu, come to my hotel room to talk about business. What is your assumption after that? What would be your, just normal human being reasoning of even if you just use 20% of your thinking capacity? What will you assume Albo wants? And secondly, because that one would already, in my opinion, that would already cross certain lines that show that, no, this is not professional. This is not professional. You should. So if you're going there, in my opinion, whether it's desperation, because there's many things, but now I'm just going to give you what I think. If you're going there, for whatever reason, you know exactly what this old man wants. And I think it was like an unspoken thing, the casting couch thing, so kind of people knew. It's just like a squeeze, like win box. highs. Kuna highs zinakam design fulani hivi. Oh, I really like your thing. Nio umefanya. You know how it's coming. You know, can you buy me some pizza? So, you know, that's a quiet way of saying it's purchasable. If you, yeah, young old man, it's purchasable if you want. But anyway,
career aspects, and she instead offers to call downstairs to get him a massage, and then he turns it around and he says that he instead wants to give her a massage, and she's humiliated. Like I said, she testified that she was so humiliated that when she left that hotel room, she broke down crying.
Awful.
So that's not what she was expecting when she went into this guy's hotel room. Which is why what happens next gets interesting. Now, her memory's super fuzzy on how exactly it happened, but she then gets a temporary job on Project Runway, which...
I have to be honest with you. A long time ago, in my history, yes, there's times where you've gone, you've smashed, and you don't remember much. Even the person is like, remember you know, it happens. It happens. So it's just saying what happens. I'm not saying it is for or against. I'm just saying that happens. You know. So you know, maybe I can't remember how it went. Maybe, but she didn't say that she had drunk some tequila. What 2000? There was some, I don't know what they were doing, some drugs maybe, some smoke, some pills. You know, all that information is not there. That's why it could happen, but absent mentioning if these things were in existence, how don't you remember?
Which was at that...
So it's kind of around our way, about to
time being produced by the Weinstein Company. And to be clear, they had already been...
But then you guys remember this Project Runway. I remember when like KTN used to bring this thing, like, you know, so tumeanza kuonesha the fashion, you know, entertainment, Hollywood. Tulikuwa na ushamba. We were washambas. I'm
produced by
telling
the
you.
Weinstein Company. And to be clear, they had already been filming this series. They were deep into production, and reminding you again that she is not an American citizen. So he hooks her up with this job. Again, who knows? She doesn't know. Did I speak to his assistant? I don't know why. I don't remember any of this. And she begins working as a production assistant on the show for several weeks. And she's paid in cash because her visa did not allow her to work in the United States. Shooting then wraps. And by the way, while she's living in New York, while she moved to New York for this opportunity, she's living with a friend of hers in the East Village. And after shooting wraps, she reaches out to Harvey to thank him for the opportunity. So despite this really...
After traumatizing you like that, madam, you tell Harvey, I want to really thank you. You see, this is what I was saying. Like, if somebody does something like that to you, and then you get the opportunity or an opportunity, then you should be like, okay, fine. Maybe it's just the talking and the wanting the massage thing. But now, since I've got the job, then why are you going back to him again to say thanks? Say thanks, madam. Okay, you see that now we have to interrogate these things now critically. People thought they're just going to shut people up forever. No, we interrogate. Look at me here. I'm interrogating what somebody else is interrogated. Anyway, you see, this is why the internet is so beautiful, because one person like this does a lot of the research, asks the right questions, and then now, as the dissemination continues, the truth continues to filter to the public, because I think online, it's mainstream media is screwed because of online content. That's because it's very rare to find such exposés for narratives that are not mainstream. You understand? Even sometimes when you hear about the wars you guys are supporting or not, the thing here, the immigration there, the vaccine there, you know. So there are certain narratives that must be followed that have been edicted from somewhere up. So anyway,
really uncomfortable,
I digress.
Experience in his hotel room. She gets this job, then she just wants to thank him for the opportunity, and he invites her for a drink at the Mercer Hotel in New York City. And she describes that experience as very pleasant. She met him on June 26th, 2026, in the lobby of the Mercer Hotel. And she testified that he was, quote, very respectful, even charming. He offered at that time to have her return to Project Runway the following season.
For a hand job. Just a hand job, madam.
And the next day, on the 27th, she's going to his office to see somebody else. And she then also stops by his office, and he gives her a book that she should read. And then he offers to give her a ride home to her apartment after that meeting at his offices. And he also says to her, like, you should come on my private jet. We can go to Paris the next week. We can attend this fashion show. You can stay with me. You can stay at the Ritz. And she says that she declines that offer. They get out of the car. His assistant, by the way, male assistant, is also in the car. He's like, oh, this is where you live? This is the building that you live in the East Village? She's like, yeah. I guess Harvey was just paying attention to the layout or something. At least that's what you're left when you get through the transcripts. That's kind of the impression that you get, that Harvey was kind of just monitoring and really wanted to know where this young woman lived. She said that she didn't want to go to Paris, but she says that he didn't take no for an answer. And she testified that she had no intention of doing so, but in an effort to be polite, she said to him that she would let him know, maybe I will go to Paris. And that Weinstein called her repeatedly, and then later...
Weinstein is on his own, and this one I can crack. You see, this is where now she's given gap. I can't. You see, this is days like, especially when somebody's seducing you to send fare, which is actually her lunch for the day. So she sends 100 people the message, 10 seems to reply. She eats pizza, chicken, and everything to maintain the body. So in this particular case, she's doing the same thing. She's like giving the guy gaps. She's like, this one I'm cracking it. And you go to how many Kenyan actresses are gonna say no to Harvey Weinstein telling them he's gonna take them to France, first class or private? Let's ask some pertinent questions. I'm not saying you're all Guinea, but we all know how. And this is not like a film industry specific. I'm just saying when opportunities are around, competition tie. The competition is coming from everywhere. Younger, better, stronger, faster, everywhere. It's just like it's only like in sports you can't pull such stunts, but everywhere else where jobs, you can massage the quality standards of the people you want to let in. It happens everywhere. I think by right now we've just kind of accepted it as society norm, like corruption.
Later on, he comes back. He shows up at her apartment for the second time that day. And now we're going to jump right into this court transcript. I can only imagine. This is the most powerful man in the world. And he's going to this East Village apartment. So the question that she gets asked on the stand is, did you act in any way romantically interested in Harvey Weinstein? She says no. Yeah. Did you act in any way sexually interested in Harvey Weinstein? No. Did you hear from Harvey Weinstein once he left your apartment and you went inside? Yes. At that point,
there it is.
Was your roommate Liz at home? She was not.
So these are the transcripts from the case itself. Yes. So this is what was being said during the case.
Was Peanut there? Peanut is Liz's dog. I believe so. Describe the additional contact. Well, I heard from him and his assistant a few times that day, asking if I had decided whether or not I was going to go to Paris. And I said, thank you so much, but no, I am not going to come. He said, well, just think about it again, and he kept calling and I kept saying, thank you so much, but no. And
why do you keep picking the phone? Like by now, you're not giving him pudesh, so just stop picking the call, brother.
Question. Those initial communications that you were describing, were those phone calls? Answer, I believe they were phone calls, yes. Question, and that was to that phone number that you had in your planner and that you were using at that time when you were in New York? She answers, I believe so. I'm not 100% sure that they were phone calls, but it's more like they were phone calls than emails. Question, can you describe Harvey Weinstein's tone during those conversations of those phone calls? She answers, well, he was persistent and persistent.
You know, just the head. Just the head. I keep man, we can be pathetic.
And what, if anything, happened sort of following those repeated phone calls? Well, then later he showed up unannounced at the apartment building. And I am not sure if he rang the intercom or whether he called me on the phone.
The details are important because, you know, this is, you know, in most people's minds, this is done and dusted case. What is, you know, this litigation, fresh litigation of it. So these are the details that put it in question what happened. And for me, my personal interest in this is just, you know, it's entertainment here, like and also realizing just how much when there's a lot of corruption that starts seeping into the industry, this is what you get, and I think you can see the results of that Hollywood downfall right now. Their movies are just they're no longer being done by qualitative people, not talented people at all. You can tell the writing is pedestrian at best. You see, it's just like now, like the technicians, you know, the cinematographer, editors, the VFX, color, those guys, they, you know, costume, you know, and all those other props. They are, you know, those ones, they're quite, you know, those are the ones that carry them. But this nuance, the story, the script, it's gone to hell. And including that identity politics they like so much.
And said he was outside, but he had shown up there unexpectedly. Question, did you try to get him to leave via phone initially? I did. He wanted to come inside, and I said it wasn't a good time. And so he said, you know, just talk to me like 5 minutes. I want to see you for 5 minutes or something like that.
I'm sorry. If this part, because some of these things, like, you know, I get it, you know, like, somebody, you know, going to try to get some pudesh, I get it, you know, like, but the person, dude, like, there's so many who want to give you, like, why don't you just move on? But you know, some people are not, they're not like me. I do not, I really can't chase like that. It's too demeaning. It's so, and I find it cringy, like, oh, come on now.
Question, and so after you...
That's why, anyway, you see when our governors, our politicians, they're always being caught up with some very useless individuals. All governor just doing some bullshit.
You had said that it wasn't a good time. Did he remain outside of your building? Yes, he wouldn't leave. And can you describe his tone at that point? It was just very persistent and insistent. And what did you do? Well, I didn't want him to come into the apartment, so I thought I will go out and see him outside, just like outside by the door. So I left the doors open to go outside to open the front door. And as soon as I opened it, he just pulled it apart like that and barged past me and walked down the hallway and said, "Where is it? Where is it?" And he was pointing, and he saw, obviously, the door was open, and he just walked into the apartment. Let me just come out of this transcript for a second. So Harvey Weinstein reappeared at her apartment, and she doesn't kind of maybe...
It doesn't make a lot of sense if you just think through the process as she was describing it. And because I think she was looking for to fill lead details as she was being asked the questions. Because, you know, sometimes when you are lying, you know, you go to a place and you realize, hey, over here, I'm going to expose myself. So you try to redirect to some new things, you introduce new facts. You know, that's what it feels like. Like, you know, like it's intuitively, like the way the answers, that's how they sound.
Sort of remember the phone call-ish. The phone call details are always a bit hazy when you go through this transcript. But she knows that she only went outside because she didn't want him to come inside. But she's given a narrative. He's crazy. He's like, where is it? Where is it? I want to see your East Village apartment. And just bursts past her and barges in. And somehow...
I didn't understand what she's saying. Where is it? There isn't something... There's no previous something that he's looking for or wants from her, other than the pudesh, of course. But, you know, to ask where is it, like she was right there, like the pudesh. Then she's right there. So what are you talking about? That where is it? You know, that's why this story was just. I had read about it. I was like,
Now,
you see how you make things hard for people when you're trying to, you know, create some professional environment. There are just too many liars all over the place, man. You know, it's
exactly which apartment it was.
Too many fake victims. That's what really pisses me off. Too many people just making up shit.
Because the door was open and he just took a guess. That is power, my friends. Anyway, jumping back into this, the lawyer asks, and what did you do? I mean, I was just standing there, like I didn't know what to do. So I just like, oh God, oh no, why is he walking into the apartment? Describe what happened. Did you go into the apartment? Did you follow him into the apartment? Yes. And describe what happened once you were inside of the apartment. Well, once we were inside of the apartment, we were just standing there, and he was basically standing there. He asked a few things about the apartment and who I was living with, and then he was persisting with trying to convince me to go with him on this trip to Paris. I mean, he must have really wanted her to go on the trip to Paris. Question, do you remember anything about the details of what he was saying at that point? Answer, well, at one point he said, okay, well, why don't you just take your roommate if that will make you come? She can come too. She can be your chaperone or whatever. What was your responses to his request? Well, I was still trying. I was just saying, thank you so much, but no thank you. Basically, I'm not going to come. Can you describe his demeanor in the apartment as he is making these repeated requests? He was just very overwhelming, and he was just very, very persistent. And he was still friendly.
Well, we already know he's persistent. Dude is here in the apartment. I said, to France, nikupige kitu France, man. Do you want local away game or local? Upper local is going to the same stadium every day. Let's go for France away game. That's the spirit of this conversation here.
But it was almost beggy, and he was kind of very insistent and would not just accept the no. Did you continue to hold your ground and say that you were not going to go with him? Yes. Was he listening? And then there's an objection here from Harvey's attorney.
Sustained.
So he rephrases the question. Was he continuing to ask you to go? Yes. At some point, did he stop asking you to go? Yes. Can you describe that? Well, at one point I had, because I just didn't know how to shut it down, so to speak, I just said something that I have, I was trying to say things, and I said, you have a terrible reputation with women, I have heard. And it was more like half a joke or something. I was trying to be friendly still, but he got offended by that, and he stepped back, and he said, what do you mean? What have you heard? That sort of thing. And I said, no, I'm just saying, no, just in general, whatever. But that's when he backed off. At that point, did he leave your apartment? Yes. And I'm going to show you that I have marked as People's Exhibits 65 through 69. Do you recognize the People's Exhibit 65 through 69? I do. What do you recognize those to be? So this is the front door of the apartment building where I lived during that time.
Details.
So I wanted to just describe.
So we've gone to halfway. So let me see, because I'm not going to watch. Let's see if we can get to 30 minutes. I think that will be sufficient, because that's like half the thing. So the rest is there. There's episode 1, episode 2, and I don't know if there's 3, but you can go to our channel there, Candace Owens. But
to you that incident, because it's important to understand. So she starts with this hotel incident, and then in Cannes, and now we've moved, and she's gets a ride, and I guess he's just decided to memorize her little East Village apartment, and he's barged in. Luckily, found the apartment because he could tell from this door that must be hers, and he walked in there, and she follows, and then despite this beast and monster chasing her, she's able to get him to back off with just this one sentence. Oh, you have a bad reputation with women. Her memory then gets a little bit fuzzy, I gotta tell you. She doesn't remember, again, exactly how...
Fuzzy memory is a recurring theme here, if you may notice.
They communicated, but she acknowledges that she accepts an invitation for Weinstein to fly her out to California, Los Angeles, for the premiere of Clerks 2, a movie in July of 2006. She frames that as I felt bad I didn't go to Paris, but she's gonna go to LA because also the timing works out for her because her friend just had a baby. But then something happens, okay? before Mimi flies out to LA. On July 10th, 2006, Harvey invites her to his Soho apartment, and that's what you heard her crying about. He forcibly performs a sexual act on her. Now, even if you knew nothing about this case,
why are you going to his apartment? Oh my God! You know, as if this account of things is the correct one, then it's just somebody who's extremely stupid and looking for something to happen to her. Like this guy is showing you like he's a fish. He's showing you everything that you need to see to run the opposite direction. But there's like right now there's repeated times that she could just go away and leave the monster alone, but she keeps coming to poke the monster. You know, like, what is going on? I'm assuming that if that's her recollection of things is correct, but even worse, that if it is just all being made up, you know, anyway, because there's good reason to think that after what you've heard, you have to say, oh, believable. No. And especially what has come out anyway.
Just this sentence alone that I'm about to show you from 2020 when the trial was going on, AB News article that was covering the trial would probably make you go, huh? It reads, quote, one of the two women that Harvey Weinstein is on trial for sexually assaulting took the witness stand on Monday to describe how the Hollywood producer violently and sexually assaulted her and to explain why she returned to him within a month and endured a second unwanted sexual encounter. Wait, okay. So she's taking the stand to explain why.
My questions exactly. Whichever way you look at it, it's very dumb. It's very dumb, or the entire thing is being fabricated. I'm leaning towards the latter. Yes.
After a violent sexual forcible assault, she then went back to him within a month to endure a second assault. That doesn't sound right. But yeah, Mimi's allegations were that on July 10th, 2006, Harvey Weinstein forcibly performed a sex act on her. Then she went to LA on his dime, by the way. And when she returned on July 26th, 2006, so we're talking 2 weeks, it happened again. Mimi alleges that when she returned from LA to New York City, about 2 weeks later, Harvey invited her to the Tribeca Grand Hotel for a drink, and she agreed. She said, quote, he was very persistent and insistent.
Come on.
She explained her going back by saying, quote, I was still trying to make sense of what had happened, why it had happened, and I felt very trapped in not being able to do anything about it.
Come on.
She said she felt like she was trying to regain some sort of power until she walked into
Well, what does that even mean? What does that even, like, people are just making up phrases. I was wondering, what does that mean, trying to gain power? By going to, how? Like, why does anyone else ask such basic questions? Like, what does that even mean, that you want to regain power by going back to him? I know that people say, oh, Stockholm syndrome. No, this,
him on July 26th, 2006, wearing a battered pair of vintage shoes with little money and no family in the U.S., by the way. So she testified.
So somebody's trying to say, no, it's very poor, poor. Did I tell you I was poor and sad and also starving and cold? And also I have asthma. I can't.
Quote, I just felt like some sort of hobo. Just like a girl who's just down on her luck. You know what I mean? Yeah, park aside the fact that we're talking about a grown adult woman.
Yeah,
she's down on her luck, and she really was just kind of going there to regain power. But she testified that when she arrived...
That's a total bullshit reason. That is total bullshit. Like, it has no meaning at all. I don't know why that's a thing. Like, what is that? What does that mean? What does that mean? You have to regain power. How? No.
At the Tribeca Grand Hotel, she was directed to Weinstein's room, where And I mean, I call me crazy. I maybe wouldn't have gone to his hotel room again. But like, this is a different, it's different. She's going again to regain power. And this is where she claims that he took her hand and he pulled her toward a bed. And she says at that moment, quote, "I just went numb," because she realized right then that Weinstein had trapped her again. She testified, quote, "I just felt like an idiot." In the courtroom, this is the moment where she trembles and she...
I'm sorry, you see, the more she keeps speaking, like, that's the biggest pile of garbage I've ever had in my life. This is why I will say that's why he's inside. If this is like the court case, what about the other 90-something people that I had that initially made claims? So this is they distilled it down to this, is it 2 or 3? And this is the quality of the testimony. I mean, let's be like of what you've heard throughout, like, because this case is actually online, like you can check the transcripts for the court case and whatnot, because it's already been judged upon. But like, seriously, no, this is a bullshit.
She weeps and she puts her hands in her head, because if you're thinking about asking questions about that or wondering if there's an aspect of common sense here, maybe don't go back to a hotel room, don't let him into your apartment, anything like that. The point is now she's crying on the stand. And crying counts for a lot on the stand. You're going to learn that a lot throughout this case.
Yes.
Now, I want to take you through when Harvey's lawyer is able to question her, because it gets quite interesting.
All right. Okay, we have...
And if you go back to that original encounter at the Cannes Film Festival, he asks her, and this is the top of 1638, Skylar. He asks her, remember, this is when he's supposed to be the massage incident, that initial one. He's realizing, I have some questions, even though she's crying. And Damon Chernus is his name, is the lawyer. And he says, that assistant brings you up to the room? And she says, correct. And then he says, do you remember what you did earlier that day on the 24th at the Cannes Film Festival? Do you remember where you went? I don't.
Yes. The memory is gone. May all the memory of all the trauma gone.
When you get to the Hotel Majestic, you get brought to Mr. Weinstein's room, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. The two of you, according to your testimony, have a brief conversation about whatever. Yes. At some point, you say Mr. Weinstein asks you about massages. Yes. He asked if you'll give him a massage, or at some point if he can give you a massage, right? Correct. At this point, you told the members of the jury that you were very upset, to say the least, right?
I was offended.
I was offended, yes. You were offended because this was a business meeting that you thought you were going to potentially talk about Project Runway. No, not Project Runway at this point. Something else? I went there to meet him to ask if he had any production work that I could help on. Yes. During the course of that meeting, is it your testimony Mr. Weinstein propositioned you with a massage, right? Repeat. Propositioned you with a massage? He did, yes. And you were humiliated, is the word you used. I was. You left the room. You testified. You started crying. Once I left the hotel. And when did Mr. Weinstein give you his phone number during the course of that? I don't recall when he actually gave it to me. Somebody's phone number is usually the last thing that you get, right? Objection, says her lawyer. Probably, she says. The court says overruled. Was it after Mr. Weinstein had made these propositions and you were walking out the door that he gave you his phone number? Objection, Mr. Haas says. The court overrules that objection. She answers, possibly, probably. Then you said at some point later you received a call from Mr. Weinstein, but you don't really remember it. I don't really remember if it was from Mr. Weinstein himself or an assistant, but somebody came through to arrange for me to go help out on Project Runway. Mr. Weinstein gave you his number? Yes, I may have followed up with his office. So we are clear.
The details are jumbled up. There are no facts here.
You called Mr. Weinstein's office after this massage request? Yes. And when you called Mr. Weinstein's office, who did you talk to? Actually, I'm not sure, but yes. Were you thinking in your head at this time this massage incident occurred, why am I going to call this guy for a job? No, I needed a job. And isn't it true that Project Runway was already in production at that point? Correct. And being in the production industry, you are aware it was probably fully staffed by the time that you would have gotten involved, correct? And she answers, yes.
Yes.
That's interesting testimony there. Yeah, she needed a job and kind of has to admit, like, yeah, maybe she got his number on the way out of that horrible massage incident in which she cried, and then maybe she reached out to his office about that position, which wasn't really an open position, but required someone with power to kind of make the position for a person who isn't supposed to be working in the U.S. just kind of happen. I don't know. I'm not alleging anything, okay? But the point is I'm just reading you the testimonies that are going on, and then Damish Chernus is able to question her again. Of course, he questions her throughout this entire thing, but about that incident on July 26th, when she just can't explain how she got trapped again by him at another hotel. And here is
I just went to his hotel room again.
On the 26th of July, you had sex with Harvey Weinstein, correct? There was sex with Harvey Weinstein, yes, she replied. Shortly after, Chironis asked her, he didn't force you to have sex, did he? I didn't physically resist.
Oh my God. This, like, what? Just creating that. No, you went there to sell the footage for all. Jesus Christ.
She replied. Do you remember testifying before the grand jury that the sex was not forced?
That actually happened.
Correct, because I didn't resist, Haleh.
Like, what are you talking about? That's what it means. You know, I was resisting in my brain. That's the bullshit. A lot of people are having sex with people they're not attracted to for resources. Yes. Like, it's not, you know, it's not. It just isn't. This is some bullshit right here.
He said. He also then challenges her, according to this article, her recollection on the stand, where she now says that he called her a bitch and that he called her a whore.
Garden tool? What the hell?
And that was something that she had not recounted in her initial interviews with prosecutors. She found that to be very strange. Like, when you were in front of that grand jury in early 2018, you never said any of this stuff. And here's how she replied. She said, quote, I think that is something that I remembered later, she said.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think before I go irate, this is the thing. Also, I've already watched too much, a lot of her contents here. Much respect to Candace Owens. So there's a lot here. So this is episode 1. I believe there's episode 2. So you can go and chambua, give her views over there. She has 1.1 million views on this one. 4 million subscribers. Glean, brother. Send some subscribers my way, Mr. Madam Candace. Let's see. I needed a job, says it all. Consensual sex with someone who repulses you is still consensual sex. That's what I'm saying. People caught lying need real time, like Amber Heard. Actually, that's the thing I'm always like, why are you always like, when these people are found to be lying, they've destroyed somebody's reputation, then nothing happens to them. Anyway, I don't know what you think about this live stream or today. Do you think I'm over exaggerating? No. Actually, this is what I like to do. This is just things that are not just everybody accepts, because there's a lot of propaganda around. There's a lot of nonsense that with lies. So we have to try and peel the scales from our eyes as much as possible. So this is partly what I like to do, and also it's in Hollywood, yes, but it's also things that can happen and do happen in our small industry. And the more the industry gets bigger, it's gonna happen. We still have some producers and directors and such like people that are